Welcome everybody to the CephFS Quincy CDS. The agenda is in the chat. First up, we have dashboard and FSNFS, current status and next steps. Did Ernesto put that up?
Hey, Patrick. Here I am.
Hey.
Well, I'm not sure actually who put those in the agenda, but yeah, it's dashboard. Okay, so shall we start with the quick demo?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. So please let me know when you see my screen.
Yep, we see it.
Okay, thanks. So, well, this is for those of you not familiar with the dashboard or the file system specific component of the dashboard. This is how it looks like. I'm running a VStart cluster, so some things would be slightly different compared to a CephADM one. But well, I think basically will work for the purposes of this demo. So, well, basically in VStart, there's this default file system. So currently this is what you get in the dashboard. I'm also enabled a couple of MDS. So we have an active standby one. That's currently the info, also the pools associated with this file system. And we have this chart. I think there was a proposal for removing this because we have the Grafana ones, but this is coming from the information in the manager. So, well, it's free to get that. So we may leave that. Apart from that, we have the clients. Right now, there is no client connected here. The directory listing, so we now are able to see a list of directories, and also we have the possibility of creating snapshots. So the snapshot comes with a pre-built or pre-suggested name for that based on the date. And for the directories, we also have the ability to set quotas. So basically, we can set quotas for dirs. And that's mostly it regarding the operations for the file system. There's this dashboard as well, Grafana one. And what else is missing here? So that would be for pure CephFS. If we go to the NFS, which we didn't demo for RTW, so we may use this also for demoing this as well. This is how it looks like. This is created by VStart. So with CephADM, it will be set a bit different. I created this mount point. Alfonso has been recently investigating. It seems like we're able to create NFS v3. So I'm not sure if, from the dashboard perspective, the NFS v3 mount point is there, but I'm not sure if the Ganesha daemon, we haven't tested that yet, is fully working with this config. And not sure how is this working with the volume manager or the NFS new module. So we'll need to double check that. So basically, you can create an export from here. You select the backend. In this case, we're going to select CephFS, but you can also create an NFS export from RTW. And yeah, please, Alfonso.
No, I think that the latest update that I received is that the v3 should be dropped here, right, Patrick?
Yeah, we don't suggest using v3 with CephFS at all, but I realize that it's been supported in the dashboard for a while now, but moving forward, that should not be allowed.
Okay. Yeah, I think it will be worth it to have a follow-up discussion on this, because there are different, well, upstream, downstream discussions around this topic. So at least in the dashboard, it's possible to do that. We can simply disable that, hide that, or whatever. So it's just for our convenience.
Yeah, and also we probably specifically want to be using NFS 4.1 or greater. 4.0, actually quite a different protocol, and it may be fine on 4.0, but it's not well tested. And one thing that doesn't give you, if you use 4.0, then your grace periods have to last the full length. You can't lift the grace period early if the server goes down, it has to come back up. So you don't, and that applies to any server in the cluster as well. So you end up with really long grace periods and clients stall out while they're trying to do stuff, that sort of thing.
Great. I think for this, we're still directly creating, so please correct me if I'm wrong, the export files in Rados, right? We are not using the NFS or the volume module for this, right?
In that cluster that you have, I think it's user defined here.
Yeah, well, in this case, it's user defined.
Yeah, I think that orchestrator is only worked with before. But as we allow also the user-defined export, until now at least, they can set this way. But, well, this is one of the debates, is if we definitely drop this for Quincy or what to do.
Okay.
I put in the agenda, there's a tracker ticket for the NFS export update to integrate the dashboard with the NFS plugin. There's actually quite a bit of work that needs to be done, but it's all laid out in that ticket.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I think we've been in conversations with Varsha, so yeah, we are following this quite closely. Okay, I will resume this and just create a sample dir, for example. So this form will create this directory in CephFS, so we can just, for example, we may drop the NFS v3 and then we lose the tag option. We put another name for the export, just 2, and just select this option, and that's it. So we have the other export created here, and if we go to the file system, the directory is there. So there's this sample directory created there. Currently, we don't support the creation of files here. I don't really know the reason for that, but well, we may start adding more fine-grained operations, maybe also dealing with objects, and it's something that we haven't considered yet, but well, as we progress towards more fine-grained operations, we may include that as well, just kind of some way of checking dirs and objects. And I think that's all of it. Not sure if you have any questions about this, anything that you would miss here from the CephFS or NFS perspective.
So I had a few comments. So the snapshotting of directories is interesting. What would be really cool is if we can get that to hook into the new snap schedule module so that you can manipulate the schedules from within the dashboard. So yeah, you've already got the being able to snapshot individual directories with arbitrary names. That's great. But I think the next step there would also be the scheduling.
Okay.
The performance metrics, I think I can't recall like where exactly the MDS is sending those metrics. I think it's in the manager report message that periodically gets sent out. That hasn't been touched since John Spray was working on this. What we have now though is the metrics that are reported for CephFS top. Venki's not here, but I think the vision is we have the CephFS top tool for the command line interface, and then the dashboard would also consume the same metrics to display it in the browser. So I think that would be the direction we would want to go next. You would be able to get the client listings and various information about the clients, like how many caps they're using and how effectively they're using their capabilities, like how well their caches are being used and things like that. And also just the individual writes and read throughputs of the clients.
What about subvolumes? Should those be surfaced here?
Yeah, that would be another good thing to add to the dashboard, is to hook into the subvolume interface.
So I don't want to divert, but I just want to register interest. I work on Manila and OpenStack, just so you know. And I noticed that the way the dashboard handles exports is more up to date, or a different method than we use. In particular for Ganesha, we use a dbus mechanism to update the interfaces rather than using a watcher on the Redis URL, even though we stick the URL in a Redis object. So I'm wondering if we should be updating. We've recently updated, to use the CephFS subvolume module rather than the old volume client library, and we have interest in staying up to date with what's happening here. I just want to, I don't want to divert the conversation about the dashboard. The UI aspects of it are primarily of interest to us from a read-only cloud administrator perspective, rather than in terms of updating exports, all of which is, API automation. But underneath here, there's a different API, clearly. I played with the dashboard and the orchestrator with Pacific a bit, with Ceph Atom and with Rook. And they're both more up to date than what we're doing. So maybe it's a question mainly for Jeff, Patrick, and Romana or something, but just letting you know, I noticed that what's happening here, and if we should be changing, let us know, and we'll work with you on it. And the other aspect of this is you can deploy Ganesha active with the orchestrator, and that's complicated. But for us, if we lose a node, system D is not able to handle that migration to another node or something like that today. And we had talked about Kubernetes and Rook One, but simpler than that problem right now is just the export maintenance issue, and that may be the place to start.
Yeah, the NFS plugin right now also does all the orchestration handling for setting up NFS clusters, but I think there is interest to make it work with statically defined set of NFS servers, which is something both the dashboard for a legacy support perspective and also Manila is interested in. But that work hasn't been scoped out yet.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's all from our side. If you have any extra feedback, please feel free to reach out to us, and yeah, we may also discuss that later. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Ernesto. Any other comments or topics of discussion related to the dashboard? All right. Next on the agenda is the MDS memory target. Do we have Siddharth here? No. So the tracker ticket's in the agenda. Unfortunately, this PR is the PR associated with this ticket's atrophied quite a bit. It needs revived, but it's a fairly simple PR that just dynamically modifies the MDS cache memory limit in response to the total memory usage of the MDS, which would be defined by, or the target would be defined by the this new MDS memory target variable, analogous to the other ones in the OSD. Um, I didn't put this on the agenda. Did someone have any comments about this? I think Mark put in the agenda about the priority cache
I just
and
added it
beating that
because
drum.
I was curious what the status was. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, this PR needs revived, and I want to get it done for Quincy, and maybe it's something we can backport to Pacific.
Or one of the to-do items also for Quincy for CephADM is to have CephADM setting these limits and be able to scale them automatically to the size of the node or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if it was using a consistent setting across all the different daemon types. But anyway, nice to have. That's all.
Yep. Okay.
What is priority cache? Is it like a thing that allows you to, like an LRU sort of thing or something, or that it, to where it trims it down to a particular memory usage? I'm not familiar with it.
It's something that Mark built for BlueStore that allows you to set. It's if you have a pool of memory that's consumed by multiple caches, you can set various policies around like how you would like that memory to be used. So like these caches need at least this much memory, and then above that, then they scale at this ratio, and then if it's above a certain point, then this one gets all of it, or whatever it is. You can have sort of this tiered. So it's helpful if you have multiple consumers. Like in this case, we just have the MDS cache as sort of a single knob. I'm not sure it would be appropriate, but if, for example, we were independently scaling like memory consumed by caps versus inodes.
If you wanted to prioritize different inodes from different places in the future, that might be helpful too.
Yeah.
Maybe use it in the monitor.
I think the one challenge with integrating with the priority cache is just dropping cache entries is not as simple as it is in BlueStore. You have to, they might require a cap recall, which probably complicates it. The priority cache code would need to be updated to support that, and the payoff there is uncertain.
Yeah, at least in the near term, if you have to do a cap revoke, then you're probably doing memory allocations and making it even worse, right? So, yeah. I mean, is this really a bug? I mean, per se, I mean, it almost looks like it's like if we're not hitting the MDS cache memory limit, correctly, I guess maybe we should be. Maybe it's just our math is off.
Yeah. It seems like it's a nice to have. It's like only if you want to, if there's something clever you want to do with balancing cap memory versus inode memory or something, then priority cache may or may not be helpful to do that. But I think it's sort of up to you guys.
Yep. All right. Next on the agenda is FScrypt integration. Jeff, would you like to go through where that's at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the file names piece pretty much done, and we've got Zhang did I guess Zhang picked it up, started it, and then Zhuvek finished it up. It did the alternate name feature that we need. So we need to be able to give entries a secondary name in case they're very long, because we can't just hash or encrypt and hash them at that point. Or we can't just encrypt and base64 code them at that point. So because we want to keep all the file names under name max. It's a little complicated, but effectively, yes, I've got the file name portion of it done. What I'm stuck on now is the fact that the MDS is what handles truncates for the content encryption. And so when we set size to a particular length, the MDS will come back and truncate the thing down to that byte, but that could be in the middle of a crypto block. And at that point, we can't decrypt the tail of the file. So we have to ensure that we somehow teach the MDS to round up to the end of the next crypto block as we do this. It's not. There's a couple different approaches we could do, and I think Greg Farnham is going to help out with some of this. But in any case, we got a meeting scheduled for later today to discuss some, where to go with this. So in any case, so I've got it about halfway done. The rest of it doesn't look too bad. sans the part that where we actually have to do. So we also have a code path in the Ceph client that handles uncached I/O. So if you don't have caps, for instance, it will just write through to the synchronously through to the MDS or to the server whenever it needs to go to the OSDs whenever it needs to go do a write or a read. And if we do a write, we can't. In that situation, we need to be able to do a read, modify, write cycle because we may have to slurp in the beginning and end of a crypto block, or the beginning and end crypto blocks to make sure that we can handle those. So we've got some code that does all this, but it's pretty complicated. And I'm hoping I can clean it up a little bit before it's ready for merge. So I'm hoping that maybe by the summer we'll have something that's ready to go, but we need some MDS support for the truncate bit. But yeah, the file name portion actually looks pretty good now. It's working fairly decently. Luis Enriquez says that he was hitting a problem with it, but where he occasionally, but he was doing some work to track it down, but I haven't heard back from him yet. I haven't been able to reproduce the problem he's had. So anyway, that's where we are. I don't have a lot to discuss here with it. I don't think unless anybody's.
Yeah, I think as far as the direction we're going to go with handling truncate, right now the preferred solution is having two sizes for a file. One is the actual size that we're already using, and then the other is a size that's used for the purposes of truncate. So the MDS will not truncate off the last few bytes that we need, and they'll both sizes will be protected by the same locks. Or maybe, I'm sorry, I have that reversed. The current size is the one that would be set to the end of the crypto block, and the new size is the actual unencrypted size of the file.
In principle,
right,
we could even take that field that the encrypted or that the crypto enabled clients use and encrypt it too. So we could cloak the full size of the file even if we wanted. The catch there is that you need to when you do a crypto, the crypto blocks have to be at least 16 bytes. So we would be consuming an extra word in the inode, or somewhere to do this if we wanted to do it that way. But it's possible we could.
Yep. All right. Any questions or comments on FScrypt? So for those who aren't aware about this project, because we didn't really introduce it, the FScrypt is in the kernel tree, and it's a library it's a generic library for file systems to use to encrypt files and file names within the file system. Currently supported by ext4. I think it was originally a project for Android, and we're now trying to use it in Ceph. So this is a kernel driver only feature, and at least at the moment there's no plans to port that to Ceph use, mostly due to the library there's no user space library equivalent that we can use yet.
Yeah, the neat thing about this is that it allows you to set keys as an unprivileged user. So if you are, say, got a VM or something that you're using and you don't need any MDS, you're not sharing the keys with the MDS. So someone like a hosting provider could, give you a chunk of space on a CephFS, and you can then use that the FScrypt code to encrypt all that data. So even though it's hosted in a public place, you get at least modicum of protection to the data. So I think it's actually kind of a killer feature if we can get it all working.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the next agenda topic: asynchronous rmdir, mkdir, and link rename. So this is a continuation of the work that Jeff had done. Jeff and Jung had done about a year ago on supporting asynchronous creates and unlinks. And the next step in that project is to support asynchronous rmdir, mkdir, and it's a nice to have also link and rename within the same directory. So the main point of adding support for those is that as it currently stands, untarring a directory tree or rm-rf, the unlinks and the creates are all asynchronous, and that works just fine. But the problem is that once it reaches a mkdir or an rmdir, that becomes a barrier for future operations. So it'd be nice to make all those system calls completely asynchronous, so that you can rm-rf a whole subtree and it just almost instantly completes until you do and then you can do an fsync to ensure that it's actually durable. Neither untar nor rm-rf actually do those fsyncs, so user perspective, it would be an instant change. So that would be the direction we'd like to go. So the next step is to getting rmdir and mkdir definitely asynchronous, and then link and rename is sort of a nice to have stretch goal, because those are operations that are used by rsync, for example, in some configurations. So with that said, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on where we are with that? Is there any current code, or do you know if you'll have time to work on it? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't have any current code. I can. The hard part is is how we handle recursion, or recursive unlinks and stuff, right? If you've got the catch here is that when you start doing these things asynchronously, you kind of lose some control over the ordering, and so it's harder to ensure that at the point where we've got we might have deleted all the entries in a directory on the client, and then go to do an rmdir, but somehow that rmdir gets ordered before all the unlinks on the MBS. Right? So we have to make sure that doesn't happen, because then that rmdir won't work if there's a file in the directory. And so that's the hard part, and that's why we have done rmdir to be a synchronization point. But maybe we need to revisit that and think about how to do it. I don't know a way right offhand to make that simple. I haven't really figured out anything.
Don't we already have that issue though? Like if I have two applications that are unlinking files in a directory, and then finally at least from the client perspective, all the files have been deleted, and then one of them does an rmdir. One of the applications does an rmdir. Isn't that rmdir already ordered against the other unlinks in flight?
Not necessarily, right? Do we know that those things are always going to be processed in order on the MBS? I don't think we do.
Well, if it's from a single client, it is.
I'd have to think about it. I don't know. It's worth experimenting with. We ought to at least maybe draft something and throw it together and see if we can make it work. I don't know. It's a little. It's not too hard to do, even to fix the client to do this. There's some guardrails in there basically that keep you from proceeding it. Barriers basically that keep you from proceeding until all the entries have synchronously been deleted from the MBS. But we could remove that and see how it goes. I hit problems with this. I don't think it's but again, the catch is that when you issue these things, the unlinks come back very quickly, and the calls are still very much in flight. That may not have been transmitted yet or anything. So it's not too hard to imagine that the socket buffer, for the rmdir process that you're calling, ends up ordered, getting the mutex for the socket before you can send the unlink, gets his chance to send it. We have a lot of competing mutexes and stuff too, so it's hard to determine which way that's going to fall out. So anyway, when I did some experimenting with a while back, I hit problems where, directory is not empty, you can't rmdir it. So, and then you come back later and it's all, and it is empty, right? It's just that the ordering is not there yet. So I don't know. I'm a little leery that we can pull this off. I don't know, but
Okay. Yeah, I think right now this project is gonna sit at the moment until we have resources available to work on it. Maybe Shubo will have time. He's developed an interest in the kernel client. Any questions or comments on this topic? All right, the next one is recursive unlink, which is kind of similar. This is an idea to just add an actual RPC to the MDS that does a recursive unlink of a subtree. One of the main target use cases we have, at least from an immediate sense, is the volumes plugin. Be able to recursively delete an entire subvolume without having the manager have to list in RM the entire subvolume in an asynchronous fashion. It could just one-off shoot off the RPC off to the MDS and let the MDS chew through it over time. And Venki is planning to work on this, hopefully, for this release. I think it actually supporting it will be a little weird for the MDS. It will require some changes because the directory assumes that like every directory that's actually in the stray is already empty. So it needs to be taught to deal with directories that also have entries in them, and then also subdirectories, etc. And then also this will be explicitly not POSIX compliant because link counts will necessarily not be updated for all of the entire recursive subtree. You wouldn't be able to iterate through all the files to update their link counts until the MDS actually performs the unlink. And to make this available across all of our drivers and not just as a special purpose RPC in the libCephFS, I was thinking we would also plumb in support by maybe having a .trash directory that you can move hidden in both the views and in the kernel client that would be translated into that recursive unlink operation. So then it would be available for everyone. So with that intro out of the way, any questions or comments?
Just a random thought.
So,
since you mentioned that .trash, would it make sense to have that be like a proper trash feature, where like if you rename something into that directory, it'll just stay there until the MDS decides to delete it based on some policy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we've really thought about that, but that could be a very good add-on feature. Having like a special stray directories that are only unlinked after the entry's been there long enough.
Probably wouldn't call it .trash just because with their applications, that sort of thing. You might want to do CephTrash or something.
Yeah.
So there's some discussion in the tracker ticket, but hard links are going to be really irritating to deal with on a recursive unlink. I'm not sure if there are other issues, but that's the most immediate one that pops up in my head.
Right. So as I was saying, Greg, this would be like an explicitly not POSIX operation. So link counts would not be updated immediately until the MDS actually does the unlink.
Right, but I mean, if you have parent like auth entries in there that are hard linked from outside the subdirectory, you can't just say, "Oh, this doesn't work with POSIX." Like we have to figure out how to maintain everything. when you issue this operation for the rest of the users.
All right, so are we talking about handling like the subtree authorities when after doing an unlink,
I'm
or are we
saying that
talking about the
have a
link counts?
file in slash foobar, and there's a hard link outside to one of those files, and you issue an recursive delete on foobar. You need to like move the file up or something out. Like it can't just sit in the existing purge queue and then go away because something else might be pointing at it.
Yeah.
What's in the
So
straight
Figuring
directory
out
is
that
right.
that's the scenario we're in is hard.
so we're talking about the remote entry links. They would need to be
Yeah.
updated somehow, or the MDS would have to do some bookkeeping to remember that it's
And I'm
unlinked
saying
those.
that's and I'm saying that before we start on this, like that needs to be figured out. It might be okay to just like put it in the straight directory and wait for it to get reintegrated, but I'm not even sure it's easy to detect that that's a situation we might have entered. I don't remember what invariants we hold around the link counts and their locations. Because the current backtrace might on it might be out of date, and so we like look at it and say, oh, it's in the recursively deleted section, and we can just throw it away, but actually got moved out.
Yeah.
Is it any different than how is it different from a regular delete? Like, isn't this just putting it into a queue and the MDS will go do this slowly asynchronously in the background?
Because we don't actually delete it if it's got more links on a normal delete. It just sits in the straight directory until somebody else happens to reintegrate it.
I
Which,
guess that's not my question. I mean, I'm saying right now the manager will just do a rm-r effectively, right? And this is basically an RPC that will tell the MDS to put it in a queue and to do that sometime later. But when the MDS eventually does do that rm-r, it's just going to do a normal.
the manager's rm-r is doing full listings from the bottom up because it's running through the POSIX interface, whereas this would very much not be.
But
I
when the
assume from the
MDS,
description of the ticket that this will be top down, so we're like just trying to. It would depend on the implementation,
yeah.
but the way it's described in the ticket, this is a lot more intrusive into the and messes around with the invariants more. It talks about, for instance, modifying the purge queue to permit an unlinked directory to have children, which the manager can't force or do.
Yeah, we haven't thought about those details quite fully, Greg, to be honest, but it's a good point.
Yeah.
In my head, logically, it's the same as just renaming a subtree somewhere special, and the MDS just happens to be unlinking those entries. So
I mean, yeah,
fairly
we
sure
could
the
do
hard
that,
link
and
mitigation should work properly.
I mean, if we
But
turn it into just a normal rm-rf that the MDS does for you, that I'm sure that we
yeah,
can do that, so it's fine. It's just like I wouldn't try and shove it into the normal purge queue top down.
yeah, maybe we'll stick it in the MDS to make that more useful.
I'm curious. This kind of brings up another idea in my head. Does the CephFS generally run the CK periodically in the background currently? When you're talking about
Does it
fixing
run FS check in the background?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have scheduled scrubbing.
Okay. I just was thinking if there are structures that we end up needing to clean up in some way, like tracking filling indexes of hard links or something like that, that could potentially be a way to do it.
Like reintegrating strays, for example. During scrub, if we encountered a remote entry linking to something in the stray directory with only one link, then we could reintegrate it.
Yeah, that's
Might
not
already
actually.
do that.
Well, you would need to know where it's being reintegrated to, and if the MDS is loading that entry naturally, it should reintegrate the stray. But
Yeah.
if it's
I think it
if it
just kind
doesn't
of
know where it
happens when
is,
you touch things.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe we even have tests that exercise that bit.
Cool.
But that is a problem right now. The stray directory can grow unbounded if there's you have a huge subtree of hard linked files and one of those subtrees gets deleted. If the MDS never touches the remote entries, it'll never do the reintegration. So the stray directory just keeps growing. So it may make sense to just have the MDS periodically go through the entire file system so that it can do that reintegration if it's not driven naturally by client I/O.
You just print a warning message that tells the user to run a scrub.
This used to also be a bigger problem because we didn't fragment the stray directories, but now we do.
Yeah. Well, it seems like if we add a schedule for scrub, so it runs once a week or whatever it is, then this would sort of happen organically also.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to be on the backlog, and I
Good
think it was
manager
blocked
module.
by the multi-MDS scrubbing. So we should probably move that back up. Because the multi-MDS scrub works now, right, Patrick, for Pacific?
Yeah. All right. Any other comments on this topic? All right. Next up is MDS rolling upgrades. So this has been a kind of troublesome part of CephFS for a while now. In fact, we have a rather complicated upgrade procedure for CephFS that users should follow, involving pretty much turning off all MDSs except the one active on a file system and reducing max MDS to 1, and then actually doing the upgrades of all the MDS daemons, and then finally restoring max MDS. The reason for turning off all the standbys has been that if there's been any change to the pat set for the file system, which is uniform across all the file systems, then all of your MDS daemons commit suicide, which is fairly scary because you have aborts on all of your MDS logs. So I have a patch set to make it so that the MDSs no longer do that, no longer abort if the compat set on the file system changes, which will now store the compat set for each file system, and the MDS daemons have a compat set on all of their beacons of what they support, and what the MDS supports doesn't change for its entire instance. And the monitors will do standby promotion only if the MDS is compatible with whatever the file system's compat set is. And furthermore, it'll only upgrade the file system compat by promoting a standby that has a newer incompat in its compat set by if it meets certain requirements, namely that the file system has only one rank, max MDS 1, and standby replay is disabled. And if that's true, then it'll actually do the promotion, and then finally the file system's compat set incompat will also be updated. In CephFS, we only use the incompat feature set in the compat sets, so that's the only thing I'm talking about here. That works pretty well. It's something I want to backport to Pacific. I promised it would be in Pacific for Rook because the tearing down all the standbys, turning them off is a rather onerous upgrade procedure for the orchestrators to have to deal with. And this gets us pretty far to making that process a little easier. The next step in supporting rolling upgrades is to make it so the MDS, you can have mixed versions of the MDSs, mixed version actives on a file system. And I think to support that, it's going to require some significant changes to the MDS map. Some of those things I've laid out in the ticket, and then there's been some efforts to version a lot of the messages that go back and forth between the MDSs so that we can note that something's a newer version. And then I think there needs to be some work to gate features with flags in the file system so that MDSs don't make breaking changes to the metadata until all the MDSs are on the same version, similar to what we do with monitors and the OSDs. It's a much more significant undertaking. The compat set changes are much simpler and get us pretty close. But the rolling upgrades is something I would like to get done for Quincy. Yeah. So that's where we are currently. Any thoughts on that?
Just before thinking about the mixed version thing, just with the changes that you have so far, I just want to make sure that the CephADM upgrade procedure is updated accordingly. But it occurs to me, something you mentioned that I didn't realize before, that you need to also have no standby replay. I guess maybe it doesn't matter. What CephADM currently does is it sets the max MDS to 1 on every file system, and it waits for it to scale down to 1 rank, and then it just restarts every daemon, and it sets it back again. That might not actually be the right thing, even before or after your change.
Yeah, I don't think any of the orchestrators were doing the right thing, at least according to the instructions.
Yeah.
But the main problem with that is just the MDSs might commit suicide, and that looks scary to users, but Rook and CephADM probably don't care.
Stop with this change, that'll stop.
Yeah.
Right. So should this be updated to also set the max, or somehow disable the standby replay?
Yeah, you just set that to false, and now the monitors in Pacific will kick out all the standby replay daemons as soon as you turn the setting off, so you don't have to do anything more than that.
Okay. And then turn it back on once it... I'm actually not even sure if that works properly with CephADM. Oh, no, I guess so. You just set... I don't know. Because when you're doing standby replay, do you have to decide what rank each standby is playing for, or does the cluster sort of automatically figure that out?
The monitors do that, and it's arbitrary, but they're going to prefer the standbys that have the MDS join FS setting for the file system you want them to replay for.
Okay. And do they, if you have 4 MDSs and you only have 2 standbys and you have that option turned on,
you'd have 2 standby replays and 0 regular standbys.
For the other people. So
we have a note in the docs that, if you turn on standby replay, you need to make sure you have enough standbys for all the ranks.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. CephADM needs a minor update there, then, just to turn off that option if it's on, and then turn it back on when it's done. Okay, that's all.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is CephFS mirroring metrics in line with RBD mirroring metrics. Afraid Venki's not here. Did someone else put this on the agenda?
Let's see, Ilya either. Would have been my guess.
Okay. I don't have any thoughts or comments on this because I haven't through it. So unless someone has something they'd like to discuss about it, I think we'll just table that. And the same with exporting client metrics to Prometheus. All right.
Yeah, it's probably worth following up with Ilya at some point just to check in. I think that the idea there is that to have as much alignment as possible between the metrics that RBD mirror is presenting and CephFS mirror so that they're hopefully as close to identical as possible.
Yep. I know Venki's been working with some folks on ensuring that. All right, the last topic in the agenda is fencing. So this is the target scenario for this is we have 2 Kubernetes clusters and 1 Ceph cluster, and or at least one of the target scenarios. And if an entire cluster it becomes unavailable for whatever reason, you want to be able to blocklist all of the active instances from that cluster. And so the open question is, how do we express that with how we currently do block listing? Do we have Sham here? He was kind of leading this session. No, he's not here. So there are a few different ways we can do this, or we've thought about doing this, and one was to have a tag of some kind on client credentials, maybe add that to the caps list that indicates what kind of availability zone it's associated with and whatnot, and then you'd be able to block list an entire set of auth credentials or instances that are using those auth credentials based off of that tag. I think that was I don't recall the exact details, but there was discussions on the mailing list that indicated that was not that wouldn't be quite workable. In particular, you need to be able to I think one of the main challenges was you need to be able to unblock list new instances. Or if a new instance comes from that cluster, that it should not be blocklisted. So you need to perhaps some kind of a generation ID epic for how you blocklist an entire group based off of a tag. And then I think development discussions kind of stalled there. So the current thoughts are in the tracker ticket, and also the past discussions with Jason and Sham about this on the mailing list. I'm not sure if there's been any new pushes for supporting this. I know it's a feature that's been desired by the Ceph CSI folks with Rook deployments, but I haven't heard a lot recently about it. Do we have anyone here who has thoughts on it?
I've heard about the desire for it from the Rook and Ceph CSI folks more recently, so I think it's still something that they're interested in. but nothing beyond that.
Yeah. I think right now it's still blocking on just figuring out the way it should probably work, and that's still a bit unclear. So I guess depending on interest, we should have some discussions, Josh, about how this would look.
Yeah. It sounds like we could get the interested folks together at some point and try to figure that out. The generation concept sounds reasonable, but not sure exactly how that would look.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure either. Yeah, it's possible we just want to tie it to the OSD map somehow. The OSD map epic would be simplest. You just blocklist all the instances that exist before a certain OSD epic, and then each instance has a epic that it's associated with based off of when it first, the birth of the instance itself.
Yeah, when it first connects to the monitors. That might work. Yeah, it seems like a path worth investigating.
All right. I think we're just about out of time.
Is it important to them that it be able to like blocklist only a specific site, or can we just force all the clients to redo their sessions? Well, no, that wouldn't work. Yeah. Yeah, I missed this when it first came out, and this is a big problem.
Yeah. All right. Yep, we're out of time. Is there any more comments or thoughts? All right. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Have a good Friday and weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.